Okay, so 110.3 is one of the most well-known sections in the code, 110.3b especially. 110.3b is the rule that tells us that we basically need to follow instructions. For years, it said you need to follow instructions for listed equipment. And in fact, it really said instructions that are included in the listing or labeling. And the reason that they used such careful language was to clarify that you only needed to follow instructions that were actually requirements of the listing and labeling, because sometimes in the instructions you'll have really important instructions that need to be followed, and you'll sometimes kind of have like advertising fluff, right? And it was always a question of, well, do I need to do this or do I not need to do that? And, it can get frustrating which part is really important and, which something that the manufacturer maybe says you need to do that you don't need to do. Well, they made a change in the 2023 code to say that instructions need to be followed whether the equipment is listed or labeled or identified. And identified means that the product is just determined to be suitable for a specific application. Now, who determines that it's suitable for that application? Is it a testing laboratory? Is it the manufacturer? Is it the authority having jurisdiction? The code's kind of silent on that. So what I'm going to say is now in the 2023 and 2026 code, you need to follow instructions, right? Period, full stop. We also made some clarifications here, though, in the 2026 that I think are very welcome. Quite honestly, I think the code is kind of the same with or without this major change, but it will help resolve some conflicts in the field, and that's always a good thing. So let's take a look. Article 110, General Requirements. 110.3, examination, identification, installation, use, and listing, aka product certification of equipment. By the way, product certification. A lot of the testing laboratories are getting away from the word listed, because listed means that your name is on a list, right? And, back in the day, back in my time, there was a literal list, right? UL and these companies would actually put your name in a list and say, okay, this is a list of equipment that's suitable for, specific applications. Well, I don't know that there is an actual literal list anymore, other than an online database. So listing a product means that your name is written on a list. Is that really what they're doing? No, what they're doing is they're certifying the product, right? They're putting their stamp of approval, UL or Intertech or whomever. They're putting their stamp of approval saying, look, this product is built in accordance with recognized product safety standards. And we're certifying that it does. And that's really why we're saying the phrase product certification instead of listing. Informational note regarding cybersecurity was added. That's certainly a good change. And the issue of NEC requirements versus product instructions is now addressed. Now, like I said, I think the issue was crystal clear already, but not everyone agrees with that. So we'll take a look. 110.3a, examination of equipment. When evaluating the suitability of equipment, the following must be considered. Okay, so there's a checklist of 9 items in 110.3a that you need to look at when you're determining whether equipment is suitable for installation. Item 1, for example, is compliance with the code. Does this thing even comply? Right? If it doesn't, well, then you can't use it. Items 2 through 9, they talk about, voltage ratings, wire bending space, heating effects under normal and abnormal conditions, arcing effects, specific applications, current ratings, mechanical strength, things like that. So looking at this picture here, I think it's clear that at least one of the items on 110.3a 1 through 9 was not satisfied, and that would be, corrosion protection, right? Obviously, that is not suitable for that application. Now, item 8 was added in the 2023 code to talk about cybersecurity concerns, and that was kind of a funny change, because that's not something that, certainly our grandparents weren't talking about it when they were working with the National Electrical Code, right? I mean, what is cybersecurity? Well, if you can change the trip points on a circuit breaker by walking up to the breaker and adjusting them with a screwdriver or a knob, well, that's one thing, right? If you can do it with a piece of software from your computer, that's something else. If you can do it from your home computer or with your phone, that's something else entirely. So if we have a hospital where you can change the trip points of the circuit breakers by using software, that's a little scary, right? Especially if you don't have to actually have your machine connected to the switchgear. I mean, a lot of modern switchgear has provisions that you can connect your laptop right to the switchgear and talk to it and change things like the trip points. Well, that's fine. That's just as safe as walking up and doing it with a screwdriver. But again, if we're doing it online or something, we need to talk about cybersecurity. So item 8 was added in the 2023 saying cybersecurity concerns for life safety equipment connected to a network, including malicious attacks and unauthorized changes, as well as the ability to continue to perform correctly and safely. This is something that we need to examine, we need to consider. Now, the code does not tell us how to do this, it just tells us that we have to, right? When I say us, this is probably something that, the guys running conduit and pulling wire, we're not doing cybersecurity, right? The design professionals, the building owners, they're going to have to deal with this stuff. But Code Making Panel 1 that has Article 110, they recognize how big of an issue this is, right? The importance of it. But they're electrical people, just like me. I mean, I can't tell you how to provide cybersecurity. Are you kidding me? I don't know, put antivirus on my computer and I do all that stuff, but I'm not equipped to tell anybody how to protect their switchgear and their, a hospital from cybersecurity. So in the NEC, we're just saying, look, it's something you need to do. And you're going to have to figure out what that means and how to do it, because that's not within our pay grade, right? But what we did in the 2026 is we did add an informational note just to let you know that you're not on your own, right? I mean, yeah, I don't know how to do this, and you might be watching this saying, well, neither do I. Well, okay, we're on the same page, but here's a document that can give you some guidance. NEMA CY 70001. So, Cybersecurity Implementation Guidance for Connected Electrical Infrastructure. Perfect. Look, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but if you need to know about this stuff, that would probably be a pretty good place to start. So, there you go. We added an informational note just to give people some idea of where even to start when it comes to cybersecurity. 110.3b, like I mentioned earlier, this is the rule that says follow instructions. Equipment that's listed or labeled or identified must be installed and used in accordance with any listing or manufacturer's instructions. All right, perfect. So here we have this piece of electrical equipment, and what do we have here? It says must be installed at least 5 feet from the water's edge. So I'm guessing that this is some sort of swimming pool transformer, it looks like. Input, output, looks like they're different. So yeah, copper conductors only, keep it 5 feet from the water, right? Follow instructions. Beautiful thing. This is a question that gets brought up all the time. What about transformers? Can you run, non-flexible conduit to transformers, or do you have to run flex to them? No, you can run solid conduit to them all day long. I've seen hundreds of transformers that have solid non-flexible raceways going to them. If you do industrial or big heavy commercial, where there's moving equipment and, things like that, things are subject to damage, yeah, you're not going to have flex going to these things. It's going to be hard pipe. Now, can you do that? Absolutely. But you need to follow instructions, right? Here it says, loosen the nut 1 full turn to float the transformer on the isolation pads, thereby isolating the transformer from the enclosure. Remember, the transformer hums, but that's the actual winding, right? You loosen the shipping bolts on them, the isolation pads, and the transformer hums, but the enclosure does not. So follow instructions, right? If you're concerned that your transformer is moving and vibrating, well, you probably didn't install it right? So make sure you're following instructions. Now, the change that was made here in this edition, we added a sentence here that says, listen, both the instructions and the National Electrical Code must be complied with. That's not new. I mean, those are new words in the book, but that's not a new requirement. You have always had to follow both, right? Because you have to follow the code. I mean, the code gets, I don't like to say the word adopted necessarily, but, the states incorporate the NEC by reference in their laws, right? So you have to follow the NEC to have a compliant installation. Part of the NEC says follow instructions. You have to do both, right? You can't. One does not outweigh the other. One isn't a trump card over the other. So here I've got this appliance. I don't know exactly what it is. but it says do not remove the grounding prong. Cool, wasn't planning on it. And don't plug it into a GFCI. Okay, well then can't plug it into GFCI. So whatever this is, if it's in a house, you probably can't use it in the garage, right? You can't use it in the laundry room. You can't use it in the kitchen. Use it in your bedroom, right? Maybe this is a treadmill. Cool, plug it in your bedroom and have fun running around, right? But don't do it in your garage. What if this is a refrigerator? Well, then looks like you can't plug it in your kitchen, right? You might have to plug it in your bedroom. I don't care, right? I mean, yeah, that sucks, but it is what it is, man. You got to follow both. You have to follow the instructions, and you have to follow the code. That has always been the case, but now we have clear words that will stop the argument, hopefully before it even starts. You have to comply with both, and you've always had to comply with both. This is not a new concept. It's just new words in the book. In the 2023 code, they also added this informational note, which is worth talking about. Instructions could be printed material, obviously, or they could be information from the manufacturer's website, or a quick response code or QR code. If you don't know what a QR code is, get one of your grandkids and they'll tell you. Or take a look at this. This is a QR code right here. Right? We've all probably seen those things, and if you didn't know what they were called, there you go, QR code. So, there you have it. Follow instructions, folks. And if the instructions tell you to do something that would result in a code violation, well, then you can't do it. You just can't, right? So there are some equipment, and I want to kind of dance around this issue because you probably know what equipment I'm talking about. There is equipment that is normally installed in a garage or outside that says, do not install this on a GFCI. All right, well, then you can't install it outside or in a garage, right? You might have to install it in your bedroom. So you've always had to comply with both requirements, the code and the instructions. That didn't change, but now we made it very, very clear. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next video, which is going to cover high leg markings. And the code is actually now going to say what pretty much everybody thought it has said for the last 100 years or so. We'll see you on that video next time. Take care. Be safe. Thanks, everybody.